What's going on, guys? I'm currently en route to weekly PT. I got fucking 8 dozen eggs going to, I don't know, somebody that shows up to PT. Everybody's getting free eggs. Everybody's getting free eggs. Free eggs all around. That's like probably the biggest reason I have chickens, honestly, is just being able to give eggs. Being able to feel like you're doing something in your community. And I feel like that was something that was kind of like robbed of us. You know, like, and I remember community being like a huge thing when I was growing up. I remember, it's so weird, dude. It really does feel like in a certain way, like it was a past life. Like it was quite literally like a lifetime ago and I saw somebody recently say that. It was like, no, it was 2 lifetimes ago. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to argue that, but I remember community being a huge thing growing up. I remember massive families being a huge thing growing up. My wife and myself both come from massive families. And it's so weird how like massive families just aren't really a thing anymore. And I guess technically it's just because like we can't, you know, like financially it's just not really plausible. And it's incredible how much community has just like been robbed, especially of like white people, you know. And like you look around at other races and like community still absolutely seems like a thing. As I'm driving by all of these, you know, just cookie cutter fucking cardboard bullshit houses that aren't going to be, none of those houses are going to be standing in another 30 years. It's incredible how, and I don't know if you guys remember this during COVID, but the vast majority of these houses are being made with like literal plywood. I mean, like they're being made with the weakest wood, the weakest construction, and they're not designed and they're not meant to last. And I remember asking that years ago of like, what is the end goal here? What is the end goal? Building all of these shitty cookie cutter houses that they're not gonna last. I mean, okay, they might last 30 years, right? But none of these houses are lasting 100 years, right? Like, we're not thinking about the future. We're not thinking about the long run. I mean, there's still houses that are standing from the 17, 18, you know, early 1900s. Do you think that we're going to be able to say the same thing, or anyone's going to be able to say the same thing in 100 years from now, that houses made in 2025, do you think they'll be standing in, you know, 2125? Numbers. No, but it makes me think more and more that all these cookie cutter bullshit houses, you know, they're strictly made for right now. They're made to look pretty. They're made so that we can shove them full of immigrants, and the immigrants are the ones that have community, and the immigrants are the ones that are tribal. White people, we're not tribal anymore. White people, for the most part, are, and I'm ranting about this lovingly, you know. I'm not trying to like necessarily hate on the white race, but I'm acknowledging a huge issue that we have been psyoped to no fucking end, and expertly at that we all need to be individualistic, and you know that like everyone needs to leave the house and go on their own journey, and everyone needs to go to college and then go off and go into the world. And then what I'm noticing is that not as many people come back together anymore. Like, it's not really as much of a thing. I mean, and I know so many of my friends that can say the exact same thing. I know so many family that can say the exact same thing, that people have just dispersed. And everyone's off doing their own different thing. And like, their like community isn't as much of a thing anymore with white people. Now, absolutely there's outliers, and I don't want to hear in the comments, oh, but I know that there's some, but my family, but I know some, like, okay, awesome. We're not talking about the outliers. We're not talking about the exceptions. We're talking about overall, you know, foreigners still have community, because, you know, they weren't taught the same inclusion bullshit that we were taught. You know, when we were growing up, we were taught day in and day out that we're all equal, and that we all, like the white people specifically, you know, we're taught day in and day out that we're all equal, and we're all, you know, every race is equal, and that we're all love and sunshine, and you know, you need to reach your hands out to an immigrant, you need to reach your hands out to a brown person, but it was never really like shown back towards us. And it's fascinating, you know, how many of us are finally starting to wake up to it. But it's like, fuck. But anyway, I'm at PT location. So this has been my rant for the day. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, wee.